Just want to give myself some space.
File up a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Oops. Glasses. Good evening, everyone. My name is Virginia Harger. I'm chairperson of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission.
Let me shut down my mic. Okay, that's it.
Today is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025, and the special meeting of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission being conducted in Shelton City Hall and via Zoom is hereby called to order at 6:03 p.m. This meeting is also being carried live on YouTube, and here in City Hall, we are doing it live and in person and via Zoom. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Could you guys just shift a little bit? My chair is on the cord. Okay. That's it. I'll start off with a roll call of the commission. Please verbally indicate you're present when your name is called. Commissioner Kelly,
Present.
Commissioner Cristiano,
Present.
Commissioner Tiki,
Present.
Commissioner Motto,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Apple,
Here.
myself, Commissioner Harger, Ms. Castro, our Assistant P and Z Administrator, Mr. Ganji, our Professional Engineer, Ms. Vernassos, our Recording Secretary,
Present.
Ms. Charbonneau, our Stenographer.
Present.
Okay, for the record, Commissioner Parkins and alternate Commissioner McGee are not available for this evening's meeting, and alternate Commissioner Apple, you're being seated for Commissioner Parkins. Please acknowledge that you understand.
I do.
Thank you very much. A couple of points before continuing with this evening's agenda. Ms. Castro will act as the Zoom meeting host while commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting. The chair asks that you please identify yourself for the record and wait to be recognized so that we're not all speaking over each other. And to make sure our recording secretary and stenographer are clear as to who is speaking. We have the opening of 3 public hearings on the agenda this evening, and I'd like to share the protocol we will be following. Ms. Castro will indicate if any written comments were received from members of the public no later than 24 hours before the start of this evening's meeting. If written comments were received, they will be read into the record. The applicant and or its associates will make their presentation. The commission can ask questions during the presentation or at its conclusion. The applicant and or associates can answer commission questions at the time they are presented or at the conclusion of the presentation. At the point in each public hearing when the chair asks for public comment, we will begin with elected officials of the city present in the auditorium, followed by elected officials participating via Zoom or through a phone link. After elected officials conclude their comments, members of the public will be recognized, starting with those present in the auditorium, and then followed by those participating remotely via Zoom or through the phone link. If you are present here in the auditorium, please list your name on the speaker sheet if you want to address the commission. Those participating via Zoom will need to use Zoom's raise your hand feature, and those participating via phone need to use dial *9 to be recognized. After you are recognized, please state and spell your name and state your address to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcript of the public hearing. Each speaker has 5 minutes to present comments, which should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations, the merits of the application, and be new information, not a repeat of comments presented by a previous speaker. Comments and questions should be directed to the commission, not to the applicant and or associates. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from verbally participating. The applicant's attorney and or associates will be given the opportunity to address any comments or questions from the public after the last person from the public has been given the opportunity to speak. If the commission feels further information is needed from the applicant, the chair will ask for a motion to continue the public hearing. The public hearing remains open. The commission is not allowed to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant and or his associate's presentation, or receive any additional information from anyone. If the commission feels the applicant and or associates have answered all questions and have addressed all concerns from the commission and or public, the public hearing will close. The commission reserves the right to discuss the application at the close of the public hearing or to schedule a discussion at an upcoming commission meeting. At either time, the commission will be asked by the chair on how it wants to proceed. I had a conversation with Corporation Counsel earlier this afternoon, and he confirmed that one public hearing can be held for the 3 items on this evening's agenda, as long as each is identified separately at the beginning and as long as separate votes are taken at the point when the commission is ready to vote on each application. And I contacted him specifically, and I think everybody could understand the 3 items, public hearings on the agenda are closely entwined. So this is the opening of the public hearing for 3 related items. Application 2505, Dominic Thomas for David Chukta at 0 Constitution Boulevard and 0 White Bassett Street. Assessors map 91, lot 85, map 78, lot 123, and map 93, lot 1, for a zone change from R1 and R2 to R3. Next is application 2506, Dominic Thomas for David Chukta for a text amendment to section 35, table 1 of Shelton Planning and Zoning Regulations. And the third is application 2507, Dominic Thomas for David Chukta at 0 Constitution Boulevard and 0 Wybossett Street. Assessors map 92, lot 65 and 85, map 78, lot 123, and map 93, lot 1, for a special exception to allow 20 cluster single-family homes under Schedule A, Use Line 1D, Design Residential District. These applications were accepted for review on April 9th, 2025, posted to the city's website. For application 2505 is the application for amendment to the zoning map, a map of area properties within 500 feet, a map of the 1982 building zone map, correspondence from 3 residents, sign posting photos and certificates of mailing. Posted to the city's website for application 2506 is an application for an amendment to the zoning map, a site plan showing 75-foot setbacks, 2 maps showing the limit of property to be cleared in a conventional versus a cluster proposal, a letter from the Conservation Commission, minutes of the June 7th, 2017 Conservation Commission meeting, and correspondence from 2 residents. And finally, posted to the city's website for application 2507 is a special exception application, a statement of uses and standards, site plans, front elevation and floor plans, maps showing the limit of the property to be cleared in a conventional versus a cluster proposal, a letter from the city engineer, a letter from the planning and zoning engineer, a memo from the sewer administrator, correspondence from 2 residents, sign posting photos, and certificates of mailing. Ms. Castro, were any other reports, materials, or correspondence received within the time period for the application, but not yet posted to the city's website that we need to acknowledge for the record?
No.
Okay, thank you. I believe the applicant is present. So
Yes.
please identify yourself for the record.
Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen and Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the applicant. I am going to state at this point that I am having, and I'm going to keep working on it. I'm obviously having internet connection issues, and I'm going to keep working on it, but I will proceed along with the application. As Madam Chair, as you explained, these are 3 public hearings that are being heard together. And they have been before the commission over the last couple of years, and we have made change. My clients have made changes, and we're back before it. We hope addressing any issues. One point I'd like to point out is the three applications, and the reason they need to be heard together is they are three legs of the stool. It's a three-legged stool. If any leg is missing, the stool falls over. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to change, first of all, the zoning in an area of extremely mixed zoning, R2, R3, and a small portion of R1 that was created and cut off by Constitution Boulevard. The area on the other side that was R1, this commission rezoned R2 to make it more in line with the size of the houses on the other side of Constitution Boulevard. This application is to rezone the R2 and R1 sections R3. Why is that? Because the design residential district that you passed back in, I think, 2017, in order to encourage open space development, that district applies to three zones: R1, R1A, and R3. So in order for us to do a cluster development that, as you will see, increases the amount of open space, has received the endorsement of the Conservation Commission, and would result in the headwaters of Ivy Brook being designated as open space and connected to existing Shelton open space. And I'm going to take a minute to see if I can now get back on Zoom. I seem to be connected to the internet.
All right. Is it your exhibits that you're?
And I want to be able to share, so I'm now able to join as a panelist and go on. So anyway, to continue with the presentation that I was making.
You need to have. Okay. It's off right now. No, it isn't.
You can turn your mute yourself on that.
That's what I'm trying to do.
I can read it. You can turn your camera on.
Okay. But anyway, so in order to do a DRD.
Can you turn your camera on?
You're up there twice.
In order to do the DRD, which allows us to do the cluster development and allows us to contribute 30% or more of open space to combine with existing open space, you need to do the zone change to R3 for the parcel upon which most of the cluster development is going to take place. In addition to that, the two little weird strips, triangular type pieces of R1 that were formed by Constitution Boulevard, they would become open space with the exception of one small area that contains, I think, a drainage structure for the development. So that's the zone change that needs to take place. Then we go to the text change. And in the text change, in the prior text change that we presented, the issue with the text change was the issue with the text change was this regulation that required a 75-foot buffer, so to speak, or setback from the perimeter of the DRD. And I will address that concern because that made the property virtually undevelopable. So there were questions about how that could be made more flexible and address the commission without eliminating the buffer entirely. My position was it should be done on a site-by-site basis, but there was a feeling that there should be some buffer. So we've addressed that issue. In addition to that, in the text change, and I'll explain it to you, I've addressed an inconsistency in the regulation. that inconsistency is in one of your sections in the regulation 35.9, it provides that in common ownership areas, the separation between the buildings shall be not less than the minimum required setback for the zone. However, when you get to Schedule A, in the regulation at the end, it just says 30 feet. 30 feet is the twice the minimum required setback in the R1 and R1A zones. It does not take out the R3 zone, which is only 8 feet, and therefore 16 feet would be the separation. So we discovered an inconsistency. So we have corrected that. And finally, in order for people to really understand what are you doing, is the special exception application, which the application my client chose to go forward with, so that as part of this public hearing triumvirate, the commission and the public could see what the result is in the development and determine it. So I would like to begin screen sharing, if I can do so. And the first thing I will be bringing up is the zone map, the zone change map, which is now up, which you have a copy of. I will point out one of the, God bless you, one of the corrections that we made and adjustments is that the zone change map previously filed with you took the zone change into the middle of Webassett, the paper road, Webassett Street. I think that's Webassett. This time we made sure that the zone change map on the parcel that is R2, which is where my cursor is now, only goes to the property line. It does not go beyond the property line. The large, whatever you want to call it, triangular piece or ice cream cone piece, that's the piece that was cut off from the St. Margaret Mary's property by Constitution Boulevard and is an R1 piece. So this is R2, this is R1, and our request is to make it R3, which is similar to this other piece owned by my client, which isn't crosshatched because it's already R3, and this large piece here, which is zoned R3, but is owned by the city of Shelton, and it's open space. That open space was dedicated to the city of Shelton when I'm not sure the exact name of it, but by Chris Vargas, when that development was done after Constitution Boulevard was established. And Mr. Vargas was property ranged all the way up to where we have industrial development right now. He built a subdivision, Ridge Lane and other properties, that is R3. So that is a sizable R3. And what we are doing in effect is taking the R3 and sliding it over to encompass these two pieces of property. By doing that, it's simply, all that does is make it eligible for the DRD. Okay, so that then takes us, and I can stop here and answer any questions any commissioners have before I go to the text change.
Anyone?
Okay.
Okay,
I have a quick question. So the intention is, in the end, the dotted purple area will remain part of this development. This
The
ice cream cone shaped triangle.
ice cream cone shaped development will be open space to the city of Shelton,
Okay.
which you'll see in the,
I'll get to that later.
okay, yeah, it'll be open space,
Okay.
except for one small area. You'll see it when we show the plan.
Okay.
And again, like I said, there's one other, whatever you want to call it, piece that abuts the R2, that is already R3. It's owned by the client.
Okay.
So, so then going to the text amendment, okay, the bulk of and I'll be a little clearer now. On the in your regulation, and I don't have this on the screen, but just to read it for you, in 35.9, which is entitled Frontage and Setback Requirements, it says when building sites in a proposed DRD are proposed on land owned in common, setbacks from roads, drives, and other standards shall also conform to the requirements set forth in table 1, and building spacing shall be not less than the sum of the 2 required minimum sideline setbacks. So that's what it says in the regulation. As you can see here, but what I've put up before you in the screen, the bottom portion that has the asterisk says dwelling on landowning common shall require a minimum spacing of 30 feet. So that language is in conflict with the other one because, as you can see, the side setback in the R3 zone is only 8 feet. So when you take the body of the language, it would be 16 feet for R3. So all I did was clarify it by saying 30 feet in the R1A and R1 districts and 16 feet in the R3 district, which makes it in accordance with 35(9).
Attorney Thomas, your 16 feet isn't indicated anywhere, though.
It's 2 times the 8. That's what it says in.
Okay, this 8.
Yeah,
here.
it's 2 times the
Yes.
side setback.
Okay,
So it's
got it.
for that. And then the other one, obviously, in the R1 and R1A, it's 2 times 15.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing was not less than the setback from the track perimeter property line, not less than 20 feet, nor more than 75 feet, subject to section 3510. Section 3510 is a section that's setback from track perimeter, and it gives the commission the ability to require even greater setbacks where it's deemed appropriate. Okay, so contrary to the prior application, this one now sets a floor of 20 feet. And it can go up to 75, and you can actually go beyond 75 when you look at 3510. Okay, so it does allow you to do, as a couple of the commission members said, at that point on the prior application, it does allow you to look at each parcel and look at the qualities, the problems, the topography, and what abuts each parcel. So you can address your thing to that nature. Now, there was a question during the last hearing about, well, why don't you show us what a setback would do? And I want to refer, I'm not going to show it up there, but you have it, you should have it in your packets. And I uploaded both the Conservation Commission's letter in support of this, but also which was provided by the chairman, Thomas Harbinson, the minutes from back in 2017 of the Conservation Commission, in which they cautioned against putting in a blanket 75 foot or any foot. Back then it was a discussion of 100 foot because you might have a problem. So what I'm going to show you now is just to illustrate it. This is, and full disclaimer, this is what an attorney's artwork looks like when he does it. So this was done on the 23 unit one. I didn't do it. And the question was, well, can you show us what would look like if it did have a 75-foot buffer? So as you can see, 75 feet, especially in the R3 zone, as we explained to you, is probably going to eliminate every single DRD in the, there won't be any reason to do the
Zoom in.
oh, I'm sorry, yes, sure. All right.
Then it's over here.
I think that's a little better.
Mhm.
Okay, so what I did is to answer that question, and I didn't do it because the question came up during the deliberation, so it wasn't something I could present, but when I withdrew it, I did this little drawing, so I thought it would be illustrative because of the comments that were made about what a 75-foot setback would do to a parcel like this in the R3 zone. And what it does is it takes it from 23 units down to 7. So it makes it's not economically feasible to do it. And so what happens is you have the 75-foot buffer, and this is exactly what the Conservation Commission was talking about. You eliminate the viability of the DRD and you lose 30% open space, including in this case, the headwaters of Ivy Brook. So that's just an illustration of what happens and why. But we haven't eliminated it entirely. as was done in the last application. What we've done here is put a floor of 20 feet. And the floor of 20 feet is similar to what the R3 zone setback is, I believe. I think it's similar to what the R3 setback. So we try to modify it to that. Now, what are the other benefits of doing the zone change and making this change so that you can now do a DRD? Well, we have an exhibit that is a limit of clearing, and it's a 2-page exhibit. And as you can see here, the first map, and I will, I can, if anybody needs, I can blow it up a little bit more, but I think it gives a pretty good picture of the entire area property here. So as you can see here, this is a wetlands area. This is a small wetlands area. The limit of clearing under the conventional zoning, and I mean the R2, or, you know, I mean, you can still, in the R1, you can get a lot or two, and you'd be able to clear. And as it says here, and this includes a small area of upland review where you can clear. Under a wetlands application, you can clear in the upland review area, but you would have to prove to the commission that there's no adverse impact upon the wetlands. That's a standard, thing. So this shows some upland review clearing, not a lot, and it shows other clearing. So you can see the substantial amount of clearing that takes place because you are going under a subdivision that is a matter of right. Okay, there's no buffering in your subdivision regulations, there's nothing of that nature. As opposed to the DRD, in which the clearing is limited really to the area that is R2 to R3 and the R3, existing R3 area, and a small portion of the R1 area. And when Commissioner Cristiano was asking, that's the small portion. The entryway would be the small portion of the R1, whatever you want to call it, ice cream cone piece. That would be part, and you'll see in the development, there's a drainage structure, a drainage pond in that area. But now all the area that is the rest of the cone and everything, the top of the cone, the headwaters get attached to the open space, and then there is another buffer of open space that exists down here. And you say, well, what good is that? Well, let me explain something to you. In the DRD regulation, in addition to open space, you can specify non-access areas. So it allows the commission to make sure that that area is designated a non-access area off of Constitution Boulevard. Now, I'll take that moment, since we're talking about the access, I think really to go back into something, a little bit more history. I think most of the commissioners were on at the time.
Before
Yeah.
Attorney Thomas.
Yeah.
There's no upland clearing if you do this design.
There is some we have to go to zoning. There is some minor upland clearing in this area here, up by the small wetlands up there. And there is some minor clearing upland review area. There is a wetlands application that is actually pending. We had to file the wetlands application. And there is some minor upland clearing along here. And I believe Larry Edwards or Larry Edwards is on the Zoom, and he could clarify that for you. But there's small amounts of upland review area. No wetlands, just upland review area. But anyway, when we're talking about access, when you go way back to the beginning, initially there was discussion with the then existing planning and zoning staff that they did not want access off of Constitution Boulevard. So the initial application way back when was to have access through the existing roads, Sunset, Dogwood, those roads there. And we developed it where it would have access in that way. There would be some improvements to the paper road and then access through that way. For those of you that remember, the opposition was substantial at that point. and the impact of the traffic going through those roads. Those roads up there in that area are not what one would call, they're older roads. They're narrow in some sense, they're compliant in many areas, but they're just not. So at that point, the client went back to the drawing board, which resulted in application number 2, so to speak, which was the access from Constitution Boulevard. And I think while it did not remove opposition to the project, I think it removed some opposition in that now there was going to be there would never be a development of these properties with access coming through the Coram Gardens area, the Cranston, all those other roads, many of which were, to be nice, topographically challenged. Some of them were, others were narrow. So the effort here was to make the access off of there, and that is the one cut in the open space. But it is obviously the intention is the balance of it would be a non-access line and designated as open space, or the city could accept it just simply as part of the right-of-way of Constitution Boulevard. So the limit of clearing is a big issue. That is part of the DRD. What does the DRD want to accomplish? It wants to accomplish less clearing. You get a density bonus for all the other issues. You have less clearing, and you have, in this case, 30% or so of open space going to the town. Let me go to one other. Okay. As far as the zone change goes, we were, as you know, in the last application, we were able to find a 1982 zone map. And the reason, this is an overview of the 1982 zone map, it should be in your packet. And the reason it was uploaded, the reason we show that is to show over the years all the zone changes that have taken place in this area. And I blew it up to show all the various zones and what happened to them. They were changed from R3 to R4. R4, some was rezoned R2, some was rezoned R3. So this area was subject to a lot of rezoning and somewhat increasing the density. And as was pointed out in the last hearing, they said, well, once you rezone it to R3, you're making it the R3 density. To qualm those kind of thoughts, so to speak, that's why we wanted to file all 3. Because we wanted to be able to show to this commission that the intent is not to develop it with conventional. The intent is to set this up for a DRD and actually make this the second DRD that you had. The first one, Nichols Place, also done by AJ Grasso, very successful. And now we wanted this one, which would fit in. Much of the objections, and we understand it, has to do with the fact that this is an undisturbed piece of property. And as I said to you before, when clients come to me, I really get happy when they bring me an asphalted, contaminated piece of property, because then what you do to it, you're improving it no matter what. But when they bring you a piece of property that is forest, meadow, whatever, when you develop it, and you have the right to develop it, you're going to make a change to its impact. The benefit and the reason for the DRD is so you can do that, but what type of open space bonus do you eventually get out of it? And so let me stop share for a minute, because I want to check on something that hopefully the computer appropriately. So anyway, there is in the packets that you have, you should have an aerial photograph, which is not coming up on my computer right now. You should have an aerial photograph with the development laid over it.
This one?
Yes, that one there, there are 11 by 17s of it.
Mhm.
The packet, not in the, it's not in the development packet. I don't know, I had, there were a packet of 11 by 17s in it. What happened to them? You did? Okay.
The last page.
It's the last
Yeah.
page on the site.
On the wood that has the brown. Mhm.
It's the last page, and the whole benefit of that, and I will try to bring it up for the public, I have a little issue with the computer. The whole benefit of that is to give you a real high-end aerial view. A real high-end aerial view, we did upload it, I think, yeah. Yes, I did upload it. I uploaded it, I believe, in the special exception and in the zone change applications, I would label it. It gives you a very high-end, whatever you want to call it, drone view,
Definitely 2507.
definitely the special exception ones. High-end drone view, or since we're near Sikorsky's, helicopter view of the development and the surrounding area and what it looks like. The areas where there is, as you can see, substantial development, both R4, R3. So this would, R2, this would fit in to the development that has taken place. And it shows you, but it also gives you a picture, especially to the upper area where it's labeled open space, keeping in mind that's open space. The area, you could make out the area of the headwaters of Ivy Brook, and then it abuts a large parcel of Shelton open space. So now the Shelton open space will go all the way down along the Vargas development and all the way down to Constitution. So the possibility exists, it's not for us to do it, but the possibility exists for the city of Shelton to, if it wishes, to create a public access and a trail system within Ivy Brook. Not sure if they want people traipsing around the Ivy Brook headwaters, but that's a decision that can be made, because now you've taken it all the way down to a public road and you can't create, you know, a public access off of.
Would we,
Is,
go ahead,
is all of this the,
city open
is this
space.
the city open space?
Yeah, when you're, I wish, unfortunately, I can't think, I don't, my cursor doesn't work. The area all the way up, the area labeled open space is the area of the client owns. It's the top of the ice cream
Yeah.
cone, okay? To the right of that, as you're looking at the picture,
Yeah.
then it's all Shelton open space till it disappears off the, you know, sort of bearing to the left.
And same thing on the bottom side of this?
On the bottom side, no, the bottom side where it says open space, to the right of that,
Those lots?
to the right of that are the backyards of,
Okay. Got it.
properties where the houses are way up front and the backyards go all the way to the back.
Okay,
The,
did a little bit of.
yeah, and AJ just pointed out
Yeah.
something else. As a result of a couple of developments, including Gamble, what's it,
Gamble Place.
Gamble Place, the area on the other side of a good portion of the area on the other side of Constitution Boulevard is open space.
Mhm.
Some of it's open space to the city, some of it's open space to
Um,
the conservation, the Shelton Land Trust, I'm sorry. So on the other side too, not that it's accessible, nobody wants to walk across Constitution Boulevard. Believe me, when you post signs up on it and you're standing there posting a sign on a telephone pole, I wouldn't want to be walking across it. But anyway, but this way, in this situation, you have the access off of it, and there is room, there is plenty of room in that area to create, if the town wanted to do it, a public access.
And not all open space has to be for human use.
Exactly, yeah, it's up to the town to determine whether they want a passive or active open space. And there are many considerations that go into it, and I think from reading a lot of the comments from the Conservation Commission, it would seem to me that this would be passive open space to protect the headwaters and not want any disturbance of that.
Excuse me, Attorney Thomas, through staff, can I request that you get in touch with the conservation officer and ask what is the current situation as to, are there some man-made trails going through this area? Do you have evidence of RVs or what are those little dirt bikes? ATVs going through? I would hate to.
Yeah, I don't think there are often, because there's private property Constitution.
Yeah, but
I
now
do
that
not
you
know, I do not know what is,
the proximity to
Up
Constitution
top.
Boulevard is.
yeah,
concern.
yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is, you don't, I've driven, believe me, along there quite a bit.
Mhm.
You don't see any evidence of any access of the Constitution. What I don't know is the Shelton open space that's part of the Vargas subdivision,
Mhm.
where does it go as it's going around? And does it have a public access up
Mhm.
there? I'm not sure about that. I didn't.
Yeah, perhaps
Okay.
Teresa can clarify all that. Ms. Castro? Yes. Thank you.
All right, so with that, I've really addressed applications 2505 and 2506. 2507, you want to handle this special exception application? Sure. Hopefully, you know. And if not,
For the record.
Button. Okay, it's up.
There you go.
For the record, I'm AJ Grasso, I live at 14 Red Tail Court.
Alexandria, could you bring up the site plan set 2507? Again, I'm having a little issue. The sunlight coming in there.
It's my halo.
Yeah, now we can move, well, go back to that page. So you can kind of see where the Ivy Brook wetland corridor is in the setback area as well. In that map, I don't know if you can point to it, but go to your, go up, there you go, right in that area. So that's the area that's buffered, and to your left there is the area that will become open space. You want to go to the next page? Let's go one. So here's here's the view. Topographically, it's a little trickier to look at, but that's with the DRD, that road would become a private road. The city would have no maintenance involved. It would still meet the town requirements for road grade. The house boxes that you see there, those are all basically 42 by 42 foot boxes. So they're not really large house boxes. Now I built a house that's very similar on Long Hill Avenue at 391 Long Hill Avenue, which is, it's a 2,400 square foot colonial, and they're front loaded. They would need to be front loaded because there's no way to side load any of the houses there. So I would anticipate the houses in this development to be between about 2,200 and 2,600 square foot. The house boxes themselves aren't going to allow for them to get much bigger.
Are you in sheet 2.0? Yes. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you can see, actually, you can also see the perimeter. You can see the 20-foot buffer around the perimeter of the property. And that buffer would remain. We've got it set up so that the decks and the decks or patios would also remain outside of that area. Generally, what happens when you're on a site like this and you cut trees is when you cut tall trees, the trees behind it get weakened. So there might be some tree cutting that would have to happen in that area just to protect the houses from trees falling that direction. But then we would replant that area if it needs to be replanted.
Mr. Grasso, could you go back again about the decks that you're saying?
So the decks and the patios are behind, so you come up the street and you see the house boxes.
Yep.
And there's decks and patios that would be directly behind each house. Not sure if he even shows them drawn, but I have the ability to have a 16 by 14 deck or patio on every one of those houses without getting into the setback, into the buffer, the 20-foot buffer area.
And is that contained within the footprint that's shown here?
No,
No.
that's beyond that.
Okay.
It's also likely that we won't use the 42-foot depth. The house I was talking to you about on Long Hill Avenue was actually 38 feet wide
Mhm.
and 28 feet deep. So it's 14 feet shorter than that box. So again, these boxes are actually probably a little larger than what we'll be building.
Mhm.
But either way, we have the ability to make sure we stay out of that buffer area, so we can truly have a buffered area. If it was zoned and if we were to develop it under the current zone, we can clear right to the property lines, which is what's commonly done. And then everybody that happens to have a piece of property that butts to it, that cleared to the property line gets mad at me because I cleared to the property line, but they also cleared to the property line. So if you look in the bottom of that map, the area, that whole area there is, it's other people's property that's heavily wooded. There aren't any any houses that are very close to where we plan on developing. If you go to the right side of the map, the back of those houses, there's the 20-foot buffer. Then there's the paper road, which would remain a paper road. I don't know if it'll be developed or not in between there.
Is there vegetation there now?
It's kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of, it's by no means pavement, but I don't know that there's heavily treed right to the other side of the paper.
I will point out that some of the people on the other side have taken advantage.
Yeah, there's
Of
some
the
driveways.
Paper road, there's driveways in it, they have their own driveways in it. And everything like that. And I don't mean just a driveway off the paper road, I mean.
Yeah, they swing into it. And then that'll give you a little indication of, so for the most part, it's treed. There's one little spot there in the right center of our property there where the driveway, if you look, I'm sorry, Alexander, if you go right there, you can see a driveway that's now on the paper road. But other than that, the rest of that seems to be wooded. Yeah, there's another one, there's two that come on there. Again, we'll have no impact on that. And then if you go back to the previous
You're
map,
saying no impact, you're not.
meaning that we're not going to,
Require that
obviously
to-
we don't plan on to acquire it. There's no reason to acquire it.
Mhm.
It's not going to assist us. It'll probably, John might want to.
Yeah, I doubt if this city would discontinue it, that's the technical term, it would have to go to the Board of Aldermen. If it does, then automatically, the property goes 50%, the paper road goes 50% to the people on either side.
Mhm.
So if the DRD existed, the DRD would pick up more property, okay? But that would be only not from an act of the DRD, not from their owners, that would have to be the Board of Aldermen.
So Attorney Thomas, to be clear, I brought up before, to be clear, so I understand, so that people in the audience understand too. The paper road, the Wybosset paper road, is approximately 25 feet wide. 50 feet. It's 50 feet wide. So you're proposing a 20-foot setback from your property line.
Hey, I'm at a meeting.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so technically speaking, 20 feet setback, 50-foot paper road is a 70-foot buffer to the property line of the houses along Wybosset.
Wybosset, Cranston, all those other, all those other.
Along that side,
Along that side, it's 70 feet
we're
away.
talking 70 feet. And then the southern property line, of this proposed development is a 20-foot line. But I'm sure you'll get to it. There's a proposal to have, trees planted there.
Yes.
Okay.
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 And I do want to point out on that, keeping in mind that because this is a DRD, because this is a special exception, the commission has the ability in the site plan to designate the plantings, you know what I mean? Even if the plantings aren't shown, they have to do that in the traditional, I'm sorry, as a right subdivision. If it were R2 or R3, there is no buffers, there is nothing. So one of the problems that commissions and even developers often run into is they may leave a natural buffer there when they build the houses, but it has no bearing on the property owner once the property is sold. So the property owner, if they want to, as I did in the property that I first bought, build a wiffle ball field, so his 3 boys can play wiffle ball, you can do that, except if you're in that upland review area. So that is the one catch, because I would assume if you go through this, there would be certain requirements to be recorded on the land records to establish the buffers and everything.
I just want to be fair to this applicant and to people who live in that neighborhood, to be fair, and for folks to understand that encroaching upon the paper road, whether the city allows it or doesn't allow it, it's not their property, it's not the applicant's property. That's 50 feet width of city property that separates these two areas.
Unless it's given up by the board of health.
Correct, that no one's asking for.
So inside that paper street is the sanitary sewer, goes right down the middle, not over the whole length. Some of those streets empty into that sanitary sewer in the back, and it follows the paper street away from here, and then ultimately into a main line that goes to the treatment plant.
Okay.
So abandoning that road with the sewer in it is probably a lot.
You can't do it, yeah.
Yeah, well, you can
You can't
convert it
do
to
it,
an
but-
easement, but
It's not worth.
it still.
Just had a
stops.
question, Mr. Grasso, you said about the decks. I just want to focus on that, on the Sunset Drive piece. I would be interested as we go along, just to maybe see what that would look like with the decks, to ensure that that the decks don't go into, and speaking of encroaching, that they don't go within what, if we were to set the 20-foot setback.
Yeah, so what we'll do, is I'll have it redrawn to show the decks with the, so that you see that it doesn't, so there'll be decks and patios, deck and or patios, we'll draw it that way. You know, I'm assuming again, this will be kept open, I'm assuming. Likely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, I'll have it redrawn for the next meeting.
Thank you.
And then one other thing, while we're, the upper part of the screen where the house is on the high part, as you'll see, you know, there's buffer there as well. And then you go to the town open space. And so that'll be left, that'll be, you know, green forever. And then the portion where on the upper left-hand side of the screen, where it says open space, obviously that part, the top part of the ice cream cone, that's going to be given to the town in any form that they want it. So that'll be, you know, undeveloped forever. And then I think more importantly, if the zone change were to be granted, it takes all my consideration of coming off any other road other than Constitution Boulevard. So it protects the buffer and it protects, and it's going to eliminate vehicles from going into any of the streets in the corner gardens. I think that's, you know, a major asset with the zone change.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Abel.
Mr. Grasso, the large gray box that's at the northern end of the left-hand cul-de-sac. Can you identify what that is?
Yeah, that's kind of, it's a detention area. It's, I don't know that it's going to be a large rectangle like that, but it's a designated
Underground,
underground.
underground
It's an
detention.
underground.
Underground
It's the
detention.
filtration system.
It's,
So there's no surface.
you know, the only surface is when you get down towards the bottom of the property. On the bottom left-hand side. It's not picking up a big area, picking up a little bit of that road and a couple houses up top because everything else.
Yeah, there's a detention, an open detention pond at the bottom by Constitution Boulevard.
So the facility, like the sewer and whatnot, they would be connected to the
Right, the city
paper
sewer,
road.
right. No, the city, no, that's up gradient. So the sewer is gonna come down the road
Oh.
and tie into Constitution Boulevard.
Constable, how about the water, same thing?
Same thing with water, so that there's not an easement going across somebody's property. And same thing with gas.
All utilities go into Constitution.
Correct.
Attorney Thomas, perhaps would you come back to the future meeting? It would be visually easier to folks to see is a map overlay with all the city property in one color, including the paper road. And then the applicant's property in another color. And then the second slide where all the property that the applicant intends to donate to the city. So we can easily see the shift from what is existing city applicant property to what is donated as open space to the city.
And would that be more beneficial if it was over an aerial or over a regular site plan map?
I think a look down, something like this. One that's,
Fine.
I think everyone can easily see where the property is here. I think when you're familiar looking at this, we can see it. When you're unfamiliar looking at these drawings, it's harder to see, the 30-something% that the applicant is donating open space to the Ivy Brook area.
I think the other thing that would be helpful, I believe up in the zoning office, you have the open space maps. Or at least there have been in the past. There's an open space map, and I'd like to be able to see how far the open space with the Barby subdivision goes. I think that would be helpful. Excuse me, to be able to show how far that up that goes.
Madam Chair. I have a
Go
question.
ahead.
So the existing plans show the sewer going to Cranston, not to
You do?
Constitution Boulevard.
I might have to double check that. We can ask Larry Edwards.
Is, Larry, are you on? Have you been a minute of panel?
What sheet is that you were going to be showing?
Sheet
I'm here. This is Larry Edwards.
Okay. Sheet, what one?
S 223.
Okay, 2.3.
And if you look, you'll see the connection on the upper right corner, right near Cranston.
Larry, can you hear the comments about where is the sewer being shown connecting right now?
Where is the sewer being shown?
Yes.
We're connecting to the upper left-hand corner out onto that paper street.
I'm sorry, I must have been mistaken because I didn't know that the lower units can go that direction. I thought it was.
Yeah, they all, I think one may have to have an individual pump, but all the rest of them will get in gravity.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. That's it.
So it is to the paper road.
Yeah, okay, sorry about that. I thought it was going to the lower section. My misunderstanding. You go one forward. Oh, the other way, I'm sorry. That was, yeah. That's a little easier to look at without the topos on as well. Get a better idea of the house boxes, but I'll have Larry draw with the decks and patios, and we'll show that they're still outside the buffer.
So you can't do that marking on is the line with the squares?
Yes, you
Yeah.
can see it's the,
Mhm.
if it was bigger, you would see SS is written in the line.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay, and I have resolved my issue. I don't know if you want to look at and AJ can comment on the elevation.
Sure.
I'll,
This is actually a rendering of the house that I built on Long Hill Avenue. This is the one that's about 2,460 square feet. That one. It's got a living room in the front, right on the to the front, right at the front door, and the whole back of the house, the 38 feet across, right to left, is a kitchen. Maybe you got we got a floor plan.
I think you used to say.
I'll show you the floor plan. Or do it by floor plan.
It is on the bottom of the page.
Whoops.
Right, it might be down a little lower, so it's done like a
Same.
roll.
There we go.
So you come in, if you look at the left-hand side, first floor, you come in, you walk in through a living room. And off to the right is a powder room and a closet. Then you walk to the back, it's open left to right from one end to the other, the full 38 feet of the house. Right-hand side, you have the kitchen with an island, table area straight ahead, and then a family room. And then you walk upstairs to the second floor. This house happens to be built with 4 bedrooms. The master bedroom is on the back of the house. And that whole area is the bedroom, primary, I guess we call it now. We don't call it master anymore.
Mhm.
And primary then bathroom, then a walk-in closet. And then there's 2 bedrooms on the right-hand side, a bedroom on the front, and there's a walk-in closet there. There's a walk-in laundry room and a full bath. Whether I don't know that people are filling 4-bedroom homes anymore. I wish more people would, but a lot of the times it's people working from home as well. So it's likely that one of those will be used as an office.
Mm.
But that's the gist of what we plan on building.
How deep is your building?
That's 38 feet wide and 36 feet deep. That house right there, as you see it. It's a fairly affordable way to build, 2,400 something square feet. It's not a lot of wasted space. I actually like the idea of it's nice to build a house without the center hall staircase. And it's kind of nice to go upstairs to bed off the family room. That's kind of where you are anyway. Winding down at the end of the night.
No basement?
There's a basement. All the houses will have basements.
Mhm.
There'll be full basements. So this is the
Not walkout, not necessarily because of the topography.
The topography, there might be, it's not gonna, none of them will have full walkouts across the entire back. There might be somewhere you might have a partial walkout,
Mhm.
because the property is, sloped going uphill.
Mm.
French doors off of the family room
And that's
to
a
get to
front,
your decks.
yeah, this one just happens to be drawn as, it's 2 stairs going down to a patio. But yes, that's where the deck would be, straight off the back. So I'll have it drawn in the site plan next time we see it in the site plan.
Do you sewer the basement? Does the lateral go out the floor?
The lateral will probably gonna go out the wall to get the grades to work and not under the slab on some of the units, probably a little bit of both. But that's the gist of what we're building there.
When you referred earlier to the units are front loading, you're talking about the direction of the garage.
Yeah, the
from
garage is
street,
front loading
Not around the
because
side.
you can't, there's not enough, and all of the homes generally, the R3 or R4 zone, and for the most part, even in the R2 zone, they're front loading.
Okay. Anything else, Attorney Thomas? You have
No,
some,
I think, we've done this with the understanding that it's gonna be kept open.
Right.
And I think it's more informative to have the 3 together. So hopefully we've connected the 3 as to why we have it, and we've gotten some good suggestions as to what, more information to provide, to the commission.
do you have anybody else on your team? You had,
No,
Gentlemen.
well, Larry Edwards, we're
Yeah.
gonna do the.
Yeah, I should have turned to him earlier on that sort of question.
Madam Chair, one more thing.
go right ahead, Commissioner Apple.
Under the DRD as you're proposing, or I guess as it may be written already, it's 16 feet between the buildings is the minimum, correct?
Correct.
And under your site plan, what is it?
They're actually 20 feet on the site plan.
They're 20 feet.
So the number of units aren't going to change, and the distance right now is 20 feet.
Okay.
So there's some flexibility in case the shape of the house
Yeah.
somehow changes.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Motto.
So, I think you having this all together makes it much more comprehensible and that a lot of the questions that we had. But I have a question about changing the zone. If we change it to an R3 zone and we link it only to this project. In other words, we make the zone change and something goes south on this project, then we have changed.
Yes, and that's really a question, obviously, for your corporation counsel, but I will answer it by telling you, no, you can't. I don't think there's any way, there's no way to do it. And I think the only thing, that is what we call what I call the WPS, the worst possible situation. And, if you deal with that, yes, something could happen. It could go south. Now it's R3. So what is the difference? What is the difference is density. It's not if you were going R1A to R3. The difference is going 20,000 square feet to 12,500 square feet. So yes, does it have an impact? Absolutely. Can you condition it upon this going forward? No. You can't make it the zone change conditional. Once you change the zone, you change the zone. However, that's one of the reasons why we came in here with all three together and presented it to you. To do it this way, and make it clear, to do it this way is an expense that most developers, most property owners would not do, because you are going to the most expensive item, which is the site plan for the special exception. You're doing that before you even have the right to build it. In other words, this commission has no ability whatsoever to deny either one or two and still approve the special exception. It doesn't work. So the special exception is geared to the DRD. But again, you're more than welcome to ask Attorney the same question. It cannot be conditioned upon that. That is a situation if the developer went south, you know what I mean? Yes, it would be R3. Now, if you knew in enough time that the developer went south, you could simply hold a commission-oriented public hearing and within 2 weeks, change the zone back to R.
I might be able to address that even better, actually. And well, that handles the legal end of it. But from a practical standpoint, we're going to agree to grant the open space and this, along with the approval. And the reality is, if it were, there wouldn't be more units. The DRD is going to allow for more units than a conventional R3 zone. So there's nothing else to ask for if the DRD is approved, because that maximizes the number of units. And when we're going through this, we're also doing that. We're giving 38% open space. Well, we didn't have to give 38% open space. So that's land the zone's being changed there, but we're giving up 38% of the land. Now we're only talking about the part that we show where the road and the houses are. So there would be no reason, there couldn't be more units put in there as than a DRD in the R3 zone. Because you can't do a DRD in an R4 zone. So that pretty much ends it. There's no rational reason for me to do anything but what we're asking to be approved.
Because the open space would be.
The open space would be a condition of your approval. So as part of your approval, and again, if you take what I said and what AJ said, put it together, mash it up, what comes out is you cannot make it an absolute condition. What you can do is the condition is that in order to get the approval, you need to convey the open space. So once you convey the open space, the only piece that's left as R3 is that piece in the middle. You lose the ability to use all that other square footage because you've already conveyed it out. So if you had the WPS, the worst possible situation, and the developer went south, the city already owns the open space. So you can't use it.
So you might want to show a map of that also.
Well,
There's one in there.
Well,
Shows the land being.
But if it were all R3, how it could be developed? if this whole.
Well,
project
we
was
did
done.
have a map of a limit of
Yeah.
clearing. I mean, we could show houses, I think, the two-page map that we showed with a limit of clearing showed what the clearing would be. And basically you can build houses on that, what the clearing would be if you were under conventional zoning, leaving it the way it is, not changing it, leaving it the way it is.
Yeah.
If the people conveyed out the open space and they walked away from the DRD, which would be doubtful, then you have a piece of property that's R3. I mean, I suppose we could show what you could put on that property is R3 in a conventional.
Right, so if the 38%,
That's what I'm asking.
if the 38% is given to the town as
Right,
open space, and the only piece that's remaining is the R3 piece that's around the houses, there couldn't be more units than doing it as a DRD. So the only difference is, if it wasn't a DRD, it would be a town-owned road, and it would end up with less houses. But part of the reason why we're doing this is to give the full open space.
I appreciate that, I'm just saying. like
Yeah,
you said,
okay,
We'll try to
worst
explain,
scenario,
I understand, we'll try to
We
come
don't
with
want to
something
be
good.
like, oops.
Yeah,
Just
I mean, the other
mentioned
thing
something
is-
and that wasn't our intent
Yeah.
at all.
the other thing that would be unfortunate if the person walked away is that, and somebody else could come in, buy it, and even though they're limited on the piece of property, they could access it through Sunset, the
Yeah.
other roads, which might be less expensive for them, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. But we'll try to answer that question.
Yeah.
The WPS question, we'll
Yes.
try to answer.
This is gonna be an HOA.
So what'll end up being, there'll be a road maintenance agreement. It's not really done as an HOA. There's a road maintenance agreement, just like on Nichols Place. So that's really how that works. So there's
So they own individual lots and.
they're gonna own the home. They'll maintain the home. And we'll probably end up with we may do they'll own the home, they'll have to maintain the driveway, they'll have to maintain the house. We'll probably do something where it's mowed and fertilized together. Just for practical
It's
standpoint.
gonna be common ownership. So there has to be some form of an association to
Correct.
deal with that, because it's not gonna be individual lots similar to Nichols Place.
Right, Nichols Place.
Nichols Place is individual lots.
Yes.
This is not gonna be
It's
individual.
more
lots.
like Hawks Ridge.
Huh?
This one, when this.
Hawks Ridge was a PDD.
Right, I
it
know
was
that, but
different,
the maintenance of the grounds,
Oh, the maintenance of the grounds is gonna be a,
that's what you're
Common.
asking.
Well,
Yeah.
that's, given the design, all the common areas and the front and backyards are gonna have to be done under some association.
Correct.
Rather
So
than
it'll be-
by
it'll
individual
be- Right, be road maintenance and
common.
And then what about trash removal?
like the city of Shelton picks up their trash in every private road in this city, I believe.
All right.
I don't know, has that changed?
Not that I'm aware of. No, it didn't come up.
They tax
In most
tax like
things,
they do, so it's.
in most single-family developments.
Yeah, well,
They do pick it up.
Okay.
I think that would be the case.
Mr. DeGangi had a,
So the DRD regulation itself talks about deed restrictions and covenants for the maintenance of the infrastructure.
Right.
So it's not only the road, it's the sewer, it's storm drainage, it's everything.
All the utilities that are not public, that are not maintained by the public. In other words, there are common condominiums where there's actually a main that goes through, a city main.
Right.
There's a couple. But yes, all of the utilities and everything would have to be maintained through the ownership of the whatever association, however you're doing it, either an HOA or a condominium association.
anyone else have any questions for the applicant before we go into the public portion? No? Would you mind handing me the slips, the summary sheets, please? Thank you, Jim Thomas. Before we start, is there anyone that would like to add their name? Come on up, Mr. Hermanson, and is there anyone that feels that they do not need to comment? There's three, but I'm going to combine them if I see a name on one. So when you come up after your name is called, if you've signed 3 different times, we're not gonna keep going through, okay? We're not gonna just do 2505 and then everybody that's 2506, 2507. All right, first one is Vern Krill. Come on up to the table, Trinity Thomas.
Yes.
Come on up here, Vern. If you can move your material,
Let me put the
because
microphone
we
over.
need a microphone. Mr. Krill. State your name and address for the record, Mr. Krill.
My name is Mr. Krill. 29 Wisconsin Street, Shelton.
Mm-hmm.
And first thing is, I'm opposed to this request for the zone change from R1, R2 to R3, requested by Attorney Dominic Thomas on behalf of David Chukta. It should be noted by the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider all these lots of the Chukta properties requested for zone change and development are in the Ivory Brook Greenway designated open space plan by the Shelton Conservation Commission, and this is important, and accepted by the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission in February 10th, 2009. So this shouldn't even be considered. I don't know if you're aware of the fact that when this area was first developed by the previous developer in the mid-1980s, Vargas. The whole plan there was, and I don't think that people understood this back then, what happened. They planned to put whole Ivory Brook under pipes, the whole length. And they did put quite a bit of it under the pipes.
Mhm.
And an alderman at that time, Ann Doherty, she put her foot down and she said, that's not gonna happen. And may she rest in peace. God bless her for doing that. She stood up, said no. And I think it's contingent upon the planning and zoning to consider all of the ramifications that is happening in the area. These developments are in that Ivory Brook area popping up like mushrooms. And I know there's another one at the end of Waybosset. I heard there's a third one. This is dangerous territory that we're in right here. This is one of the last wetlands, one of the last open spaces left. And when Mr. Chukta bought this property, he bought the first 3.5 acres from his aunt, knowing it was zoned R1, R2. He bought the second piece from Vargas, knowing it was R1 and R2, and he bought the third piece from St. Margaret Mary Church, again, knowing that it was R1, R2. We're not obligated to do anything. He knew it was when he bought it. We put up on the overhead 7 houses. Then you bought that for that property, then fine. You know, that's what we should be doing. And let everybody be aware of here, those R4, R5 zoning around that, those houses are 25 by 32. Those are 1650 square foot houses. These are big houses. These are, as what was said, 42 by 42 in an area that you have homes that are 25 by 32. It's outrageous. This is way overboard. I can't say it any other way. It should be just rejected out of hand. It's just not acceptable. Another thing too, I have a consideration with, and I don't know if anybody could give me a solid answer on this. I own property across the street from the development. A lot at the intersection of Waybosset and Cranston. It's undeveloped. And we're already looking at 50-foot setback using the paper road Waybosset. There is no consideration that that's not going to be built Waybosset. There's no reason why it should. There's no wetlands there. There's no topography showing that it shouldn't be. And you're showing 50 feet of Waybosset as a setback, plus the other 20 feet, 70 feet. Well, how about my 25 feet? Why can't we say in the middle? Why should we say, well, we're gonna give every 70 feet, 50 for Webassett and the other 20 feet? And you look at a house there at the top of that cul-de-sac, I can't see 75 feet there. Now, I think this should be reviewed. I think it should be put under scrutiny here. And I'm objecting to anybody using Webassett Street 50 feet as a setback. When myself, I have a lot on the other side where I should be considered to have 25 feet of that setback. And the last thing I want to say is the 38% open space, and I don't know what wetlands had considered there, but I'm just suggesting that we consider how much of that open space is in this 38%. You couldn't use that wetlands anyway, so you're not giving the city anything because there's nothing to give because it's wetlands. With that, I rest. Thank you, members of the board. Commissioner Harbinger, for the last two times of denying this. Hopefully, you're going to deny it again and consider everything here that I have to say and the other people living in this area. And again, thank you very much for your time and cooperation.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming out. Next person, Christine Fornabeo. You're all set? Okay. All right. How about Matt? Okay.
How's everybody doing today? Thank you for having us here today. And I'm not playing Candy Crush. I took a lot of notes.
Okay, just identify yourself for the record.
Absolutely, thank you. Matt Fornabio, 55 Sunset Drive in Shelton. My property does abut the property in question. So starting off, the other DRD in Shelton, Nichols, is it Nichols Road or Nichols Avenue? I couldn't quite say that.
Off of Nichols Avenue.
Off of Nichols Avenue. Planning and zoning approved on application 2014, 18 houses on 12 acres. This application is looking for 20 to 24 to 30, depending on which application you're looking at, houses on 58% of that size plot of land. So that's very different. That's much more congested, much more dense. At the meeting on 10/16, it was stated that the development did not adhere to the DRD setbacks anyway on the project off of Nichols Road. So that was a little concerning to hear that. The DRD concept, and correct me if I'm incorrect, the DRD concept was put in place in order to allow cluster houses, to allow houses to be closer together, to allow more open space in Shelton, which sounds wonderful. This plot that we're talking about, this piece of land, is eyeballing it. It's two separate pieces of property. It's an L shape connected by, and again, I'm eyeballing 100 to 150 feet. I'm looking up here, it's not there anymore. The DRD is meant to make an open space. The open space in this plan is completely separated from the development. There's no space in between the houses. There's no open area. It's, and I apologize for repeating what Vern just said, it's wetlands. It's not open space. It's undevelopable land and should not be considered part of, oh, wow, it's extra acreage that we're leaving open. You have to leave it open. It's not available for building. It should not be included in this DRD. I just said that. Okay. Mr. Thomas did also mention Constitution Boulevard. He, stapled the sign on the telephone pole. Thank you for doing that, for letting us know this was happening today. And I'm sure the attorney noticed, as we all do, we all go on Constitution Boulevard. It's a busy road. Very busy road. Nobody wants to walk across it, as he said, and I laughed and shook my head. You're absolutely right. I don't even want to be anywhere near that road on foot. Having said that, I don't think a traffic study has been done to have a driveway or a private road coming off of Constitution. I really think that needs to be addressed, that this is going to cause I don't know about disruption would be the right word, but a study needs to be done to make sure that it's safe, that it's viable. Along those similar lines, it is springtime. The past week has been beautiful. All the animals are coming out. We saw owls, deer, foxes, raccoons, a lot of breeding populations. Along with a traffic study, I think a wildlife study needs to be done on this area to make sure that there is no problem with developing in the wetlands. Moving on to that, the property in question is 100% rock. Yeah, there's trees, yeah, there's vegetation. Under those trees and vegetation is just rock. They're gonna have to be doing blasting with the setbacks being, proposed to be somewhat removed. You're gonna be blasting 20 to 30 feet away from people's houses, which is kind of concerning as well. Moving on to the DRD, and Mr. Grasso built some beautiful houses in the city. I can't even talk anymore. I apologize. And I really appreciate all the work he's done in the city. He did mention that he wishes people would build bigger houses. I completely agree. You can't do that with this DRD proposal. You want bigger houses, that's fine. But you want these tiny little clusters, it kind of contradicts. You're looking to shoehorn as many houses into a small area as possible. You want decks and patios in the back, but you want to remove setbacks. So if the setbacks are adhered to this time around, then the houses would maybe need to be even smaller than we're talking about. Something that was briefly brought up, but I don't think the applicant got to talk about it too much, was the line of arborvitae trees that they want to put along my property, the neighbors' properties. I know arborvitaes don't take up much space, but are they going to be overhanging? Are they going to be part of the setback? How does that work? I'd like to hear that addressed.
Matt, can you wrap it up?
Absolutely. We're doing 3 applications in one. I apologize. So in closing, these applications, 2 of the 3 applications, 1 of them was withdrawn. 2 of them were already denied by this board. The special exception was withdrawn when you denied the zone change and the text amendment. I would ask that you again deny these applications and allow the applicant to develop based on the current zoning without the DRD, 7 houses, 8 houses, whatever is allowed. I would have no problem with it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Fonabeo.
Thank you.
Next is Becky Douglas.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening, Becky.
I'm Becky Douglas. I live at 56 Woonsocket Avenue in Shelton, and I'm opposed to all 3 applications. My reason is I'm not opposed to this man building houses. I just don't want a little mini city in the middle of, a neighborhood, surrounding neighborhoods. All the houses that are on my street, houses that are on, just one second, and on Steep Brook. Steep Brook runs off of Constitution. So there is a road that goes off of Constitution. I drove up there the other day. I never realized, it's a very nice area. The houses are big houses, not huge, but they're big houses. They have property that's maintained. All the neighborhoods look great. In my neighborhood, they're older houses, but there's space, so we're not like this. They're not, open your window and shake a hand. If he insists on building, which I'm sure he will, and he's not the only one that plans on building down that area, I think it should be at most 7 houses to keep the continuity of the area. There's no like cluster of houses in there. I know everybody wants to keep the woods because for us, it's a buffer between Constitution. Attorney Thomas doesn't want to get run over on Constitution. Putting all those houses in is going to, you know, make it noisier. There's already tractor trailers that go up and down there. People going like 80 miles an hour, and I think the speed limit is probably 25, 30 at most. I just am opposed to this. If he wants to build, just don't make it cluster, make it like 4, 7 houses, which I know is probably not economical for you as a builder, but it fits more into the area than 20 houses or 23 houses, whatever, you know, the plan is right now. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Next is Margaret Polson.
Afternoon.
Good evening, Margaret.
I'd like to show you the GIS map of the area. As you could see, the Ivy Brook floodplain goes right up against
That's the area
Constitution Boulevard.
That you're referring to?
Yeah, that's the floodplain of the Ivy Brook. By regulations from existing regulations for inland wetland, you have to stay 75 feet against off of that buffer. So there's no road going through in his property. It's impossible.
Wetlands commission, we don't control that. Before.
Agreed. So, you know, that's May 23rd. So you shouldn't even, probably not even, you know, rule on this. Yeah. I feel that the property values will decrease. There's too many houses. I'll see a row of houses on the hill of, you know, on the opposite side of my street. I'll see 20 houses. Right now, what I see in my backyard is Waterview Drive and all the lights as just a string of lights from all these buildings. There are blasting issues. Mr. Baya will probably ensure that this doesn't happen. But it does set a precedent for all of Shelton. You know, it's just not this area. What if any area, you give him this, other areas will say, well, I have an acre, I want to subdivide, and I'm going to put a box on it, and I'm going to make it 5 stories high. These are only boxes you're looking at. There's no telling what he's going to put there. He may have a plan now, he may change it. You do a zoning change now, and oh, I'll change my mind. I got a box that's this big. I'm going to make it 50 stories high.
Once an application is approved, no modifications can be made unless they come back before the commission.
Retaining ponds are another issue. Have you ever seen the one on Long Hill that I believe the mayor built? There's a retaining pond there. It looks like a desert in the summer, and it's an ice skating rink in winter. It's disgusting. Who wants to replace a viable, beautiful forest with that type of infrastructure? As far as zoning map amendments, zoning should be enforced. Keep greedy developers from ruining Ivy Brooks. You don't want pollution or building on Jack in the Pulpits and owl habitats. And nor do we want vacuum backpacks blowing leaves and the roar of lawnmowers. So I'm requesting that you do your due diligence and do the right thing and not approve the zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Next person is David Paulson.
This is gonna be long.
You have 5 minutes.
But now, I'm David Paulson, 64 Sunset Drive. I, this is the, however many meetings we've had on this. And I simply want to voice my opinion, and that is to not change the zoning. And please just build on the way it's zoned to now, that you're entitled to. And that is my contribution to the conversation.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Polson. And next is Tom Harbinson.
Commission.
Tom?
Tom Harbinson, 15 Soundcrest Drive, speaking on behalf of myself, not as chairman of the Conservation Commission. I was watching your meeting from afar, and you had a couple of queries you were going to pose to our conservation agent, which I might be able to satisfy you and expedite your process. First off, I'll say that according to Google Street View, the speed limit on Constitution Boulevard is 35 miles an hour. And then in terms of open space, I think it'd be helpful to give a re-education, a reminder as to the concept of open space. We try to acquire parcels of open space in corridors, greenway corridors. Housatonic River Greenway, Farmville River Greenway. In this area, the Ivy Brook Greenway is an identified greenway corridor for our open space plan, which you have adopted. What that means is in those areas, you'll give a little extra attention to the potential to acquire properties that can be preserved in their natural habitat, or perhaps allow some passive recreation opportunities such as hiking, bird watching, and such. It does not mean that everything in that corridor is sacrosanct, but it does mean you're going to give special attention to it. So in that corridor near this development, there are some properties that are being referred to as open space. And Chairwoman Harter asked that if there was any restrictions on the property or access points. So just to the north of this development application, there is a large piece of open space that came from Chris Vargas, or an entity owned by Chris Vargas. That property, I apologize, all set to go to read you the deed. It is a city open space property as we define it on our open space plan, but it is not deed restricted for being in its natural state forever, such as a property near 390 Sheldon Avenue. This property does say clearly in the deed that you can use it for whatever municipal purposes. That may have been at the time to construct roads. It may have been at the time to allow sewer easements. I'm not sure what the thinking was. But as far as our open space plan, yes, it is shown as open space. Yes, the public would have access on the paper streets in that area if they wanted to enjoy passive recreation of that. But there are some wetlands on it, and that would be addressed through an in the wetlands application. So that's really all I have to offer to your deliberations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harbinson. Before we had called up the first person, I did note that there weren't any elected officials in the audience, but I'll ask if there are any elected officials who are participating remotely via Zoom or by a phone link. If you would like to comment on this particular application, would you please use Zoom's raise your hand feature or dial *9.
No one.
Okay. What I expected. Is there anyone else here in the audience that would want to comment on this application? Okay. Yeah, I crossed off the names. Yeah, I mean, for everybody. Okay, pass those down. All right, so Attorney Thomas, do you want to comment on any of the what's that?
Anyone else?
No, if there's anyone from the public who's participating remotely, please dial *9 or use Zoom's raise your hand feature to be identified. Have anything? No, okay. All right, at least we clarified that. All right, Attorney Thomas.
Thank you. I'll address a few of the points. One point I think was addressed by Mr. Harbinson, which is the person we referenced to the Ivy Brook Greenway. And what this proposal is doing is adding property to the Ivy Brook Greenway. There were several comments about the Ivy Brook headwaters and its wetlands, and the comment was made is what was the benefit of giving open space that's wetlands? Well, when the open space that's wetlands is the headwaters of the Ivy Brook, there is a benefit to giving it. Not every piece of wetlands is a benefit, but in this case, the connectivity of open space. And I will say, I did a little research while everybody was talking and everything like that. The Shelton open space parcel does connect to the paper road, the Webassett paper road up that way, so that is where there is the potential, as Mr. Harbinson pointed out, for you public access at the upper end of that piece of property. And then it comes down, and then there is the Ivy Brook Greenway extends across the other side of Constitution Boulevard, and there are a couple of pieces of open space that it connects to on that side, going down, I think going up towards the Ivy Brook Industrial Park in that area. So there is the connection to the Ivy Brook area. Mr. Crow's comment about the 50-foot setback, I think that was a discussion that Commissioner Cristiano and I were having about how much space is there between, that we're providing a 20-foot setback. There may actually be more of a setback, but we're providing a 20-foot setback along Webassett, the paper road. And the only comment was that when you take into account the paper road, we're not claiming it as a setback. We're claiming that it's happens to be now clear land owned by the city. So it's unlikely to be developed. We weren't saying that it was our setback or anything like that. As far as getting back to the issue of wetlands and the sensitivity of this wetlands, everybody agrees it's very high value because it's the Ivy Brook headwaters. The difference between giving it an open space and not giving it as open space is that if it's not given as open space, it's still wetlands. It's still protected, but it's owned by a private property owner. And if it were developed, it would be part of a lot. Potentially could be open space in a subdivision, could be. But what I'd like to share with you, and I want to preface it, this was a prior map done during discussions. Get over here. There's a prior map during discussions. And it was show to the lawyer what a traditional subdivision would look like. But this is, if it had been zoned R3, this may actually answer Commissioner Maddow's question. I went and found this. Yeah, I will try to expand it a little bit here. So the point that I wanted to make with it is that, let me just shrink this thing on the side here. Okay, this is if it were R3, not R2. You know what I mean? Not what it's zoned. But as you can see, it does reduce the number of houses in this area. But if you're doing it all, you've got a house down here. There's enough room for a house down here on the R1, which wouldn't be changed. And there's 3 houses that can go in here with a common driveway, an interior lot, and 2 others. That would be able to be built on some of the upland review area. And still, the Ivy Brook could either be part of the lot or part of the open space. So even in a routine subdivision. So what would you get? I mean, would you get 20 houses? Because this proposal, I want to be clear, based on one of the comments, this proposal is for 20 houses, okay? If you look at it this way, you're talking about 4 and 9, 4, and, I'm sorry, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4 and 11. So you're getting 16 houses, 15 houses, sorry. My math isn't very good today. You're getting 15 houses in the area. Now, I'm just doing that for illustration. But now, what I want you to refer back to is the limit of clearing, okay? That is what you have to associate with. And I understand that people want natural space to remain natural space when that's what you're looking at. But people have the right to develop the property. The DRD, without a doubt, is the much more restrictive way to permit a property owner to develop it. In a routine subdivision, in a regular subdivision, with the exception of upland review area, people, the owners, not the developer, the owners can clear the lot that they want to clear. If they are not tree persons, they can make it all grass. So, and they can just go right to the property line. Whereas you talk about approvals and conditions that would be in the title of all these properties to indicate that this is the approval. Remember, special exceptions are recorded on the land records. That's a requirement in the statute. So the special exception then becomes in the chain of title in everybody buying it. And that special exception approval with the conditions gets recorded on the land records. Shelton in the past has had the procedure to just record a single page special exception. Many other towns record the conditions of approval with the special exception. And that's a choice that you can make to advise everybody that these are the conditions, including open space and buffers. So I hear what they're saying about wildlife. I hear what they're saying. There is a landscaping, clearly, by the way, the landscaping must be done solely on the property of the client. The landscaping can't be done in such a way that it grows onto the adjacent property. And green giant arborvitaes, which are supposedly deer resistant, also tend to grow straight up, not the old mistake that people made by planting white pines. And then 15 years later, there was no buffer because the white pines grew up to 60 feet and then fell down in a hurricane. These are the type of things that it is a little bit difficult. It is, you try to understand what they want, but to say don't change the zone is honestly to say the opposite of what they want, because there would be no buffers, there would be much more growing, and you would get much less open space. And as Tom Harbinson pointed out, the open space concept resulted in one point, and Shelton was in the forefront of this. The open space concept, there was a mistake made because it created what I call, and this is an appropriate term nowadays, measles open space. And what that meant was, if you lit up every open space in red and you flew up in a helicopter, it would look like the town had measles. There are these little, tiny little spots. Shelton was one of the first towns to really drive connectivity of open space and make them connect with each other. And this was really an easy one. This was a softball for us because it's right next to the Ivy Brook corridor, and it's right next piece of open space, and it's across the road from another piece of open space. So I believe that we have addressed the concerns by doing this. And hopefully we will also at the next public hearing be able to provide all of the items that have been requested to show you that we have addressed the concern. And the concerns that they want to address, short of the city of Shelton buying the property, which I don't think is in the cards, short of that, the DRD is what protects it the best. Thank you.
Attorney Thomas, there were submissions from city engineer and also the planning and zoning engineer in correspondence. Did you want to?
I did not do that.
Okay, so were those the things that were just
They were
updated
only uploaded this
today?
afternoon.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. So You'll
We'll
address
address them.
this now. Yep,
We'll address them the next time. I haven't had a chance to
exactly.
review them.
Okay. Mr. Gandy, did you have any comments you wanted to share? No? Okay. All right, any, final comments, questions, or concerns from the commission? Okay,
We should
hearing-
keep the public hearing open, so I would motion to keep the public hearing open.
okay, there's a
Second.
motion from Commissioner Tiki to continue the public hearings for applications 2505, 2506, and 2507. Is that correct, Commissioner Tiki? There's a second from Commissioner Kelly. So on the motion to continue, Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Commissioner Cristiano?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki?
Aye.
Commissioner Apple? And the chair votes aye. Motion is passed by a vote of 6-0. The continuation of the public hearing for these three applications will be on the agenda of an upcoming meeting. And it would be, what, May 21st?
Yes, May 21st.
Okay, May 21st. So the people in the audience, our residents, will be on the lookout for that because we will not be issuing another legal notice. All right. And the public could present comments at that time on any new material submitted by the applicant, which we expect. Okay, so,
And if any members of the public, they receive the notice with my email address, if they want copies or further things of what's been presented, they just need to contact me by email.
okay, very good. All right, for the commissioners and anyone else who's here, the next item on the agenda was to be an executive session, but that will not be held this evening as the material that was to be discussed has not yet been finalized. And seeing that there's no other item on the agenda, the chair declares this evening's meeting is adjourned as of 7:50.